Hi everybody. A very warm welcome to all the attendees for the webinar titled 12 Hidden Features in ServiceDesk Plus that Unlock Huge Value. To start off, I'm Prithvi from Managed Engine ServiceDesk Plus Marketing, and I will be your host today. Let me introduce you to Maljeev, who will take you through the presentation today. Maljeev Rafi has over 7 years of experience with Managed Engine and has helped IT service desk teams across the globe implement ServiceDesk Plus with idle best practices. He is the technical support manager of ServiceDesk Plus. So, without much ado, let me pass on the controls to Maljeev.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for that introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from wherever you are listening from. I welcome you all to this webinar that take you through a few features that could, like the title say, unlock huge value in your help desk environment. So, yeah, like introduced, my name is Maljeev Rafi. Currently working as the technical manager for the ServiceDesk Plus support team. Now, coming back to the title of the webinar today, 12 hidden features in ServiceDesk Plus that unlock huge value. I recently had a similar session in one of the user conferences that was held at Pleasanton in the United States. And just before the session, a user walked towards me and asked me this question. If these features unlock such a huge value, why hide them? Yeah, that was really a good question. I explained that all these features are actually not hidden, but are features that are less noticed. With regards to this webinar, I'm also going to talk about a lot of new features which was introduced in version 9, which can really make a difference in your help desk environment, how you are running right now. I hope you could see my screen. I'm going to jump into the features that we are going to discuss today. The first feature I'm going to talk about today is the solution auto suggest, which was brought in one of the recent versions, that is version 9. So this is something which is useful for the requesters, which suggests the solutions whenever they type, whenever they try to create a ticket from the self-service portal. So this is mainly for users who maintain a solution database and have your users who log into the self-service portal to raise the issues. Let me just log in as a user into the self-service portal where I can walk you through this feature. So I'm logging in as I'm trying to create a ticket here. A user logs in here and is trying to create a ticket here. And when he puts a space there on the subject, he's given a solution there, which is relevant to the title that he's typing in. So here, ServiceDesk Plus will list the first 3 solutions that matches the title of the subject, and also will try to bring up the announcement. It will try to match up the announcements, which is relevant to the title, what is giving when a user is raising a ticket. So, for example, I choose to take a look at this solution. I can read through the solution, and if this doesn't satisfy my requirement or solve my problem, I could do a continue request, fill in the necessary details, and then create a ticket. Right? So where do I enable this auto suggest? So I'm going back into the application, as a administrator. To the self-service portal settings, and you can see show suggestions to requesters while creating new incident requests. Now this feature is enabled only for incidents, so this would really help you. Like again, I want to stress this point: if you maintain a proper solution database, and if you do announcements based on in the application based on the kind of issues that you receive from your users, and this is going to help you a lot. This will reduce the number of tickets that comes to your help desk, which in turn helps your technicians to actually concentrate on new issues that are more relevant. So how do I track if this particular feature, which is turned on in the application, is really meaningful for your environment? So currently, like there is something you can look up in the database. There is a table called Auto Suggest Info, which would tell you the number of tickets that are skipped by your users because they found a solution from the solution database, or they found some relevant information from the announcements that you made in the self-service portal, which made them to recognize that this is something like a known issue, or they found a particular article, solution article from the solution database that you have created. So that's about the solution auto suggest. Again, this was one of the features which was brought in the version 9. So I'm going to talk about one another feature that again can be used by the users from their portal. So that's about on behalf of field, which was brought in. So this field helps the users to raise a ticket on behalf of another user. So here it is. So say for example, a user who can't actually log into his laptop because his AD password got locked. So he could ask his colleague to raise a ticket from his self-service portal, so that other user can actually log into his portal and then specify the on behalf of the user for whom he is raising the ticket, and then he can create a ticket for the other user who is not able to actually access his self-service portal. So this feature needs to be enabled through the database. So we have a database table called global config. Now, if you are familiar with our ServiceDesk Plus application, you might have come across this table called global config, where we might need to do some database entry to enable this particular field. So notifications like request creation, notification for resolved or closed will be sent to both requester and on behalf of which user the ticket is created for. So, both of them will be updated and can actually proceed with the ticket. So that was about on behalf of user, one feature that could be used by your users if you turn this up in the database, turn this on in the database. One another feature, let me go back to the admin page. So you can import requesters from Active Directory, and we have recently brought in this option to bring in the manager field from the Active Directory. So this was not available before. So now we are providing this option of bringing the manager information into the application. So you may have to enable this reporting to field from the window where you're trying to import the users from the Active Directory. And this information is reflected under the Requesters tab under each requester. So if there is a manager field which was brought in from the Active Directory, you could see the reporting to field, which is filled with the information of the manager field that exists in Active Directory. So this field can also be populated manually just by editing the requester and also doing a CSV import. So where do you apply this reporting to field in the application? Or what is the importance of this field in the application? So of course you could get to know the manager of that specific user who is creating the ticket. So in case if you need to contact this manager, the manager's information is right there. And this can also be used for approval process. So this is one service request, and you know, under the workflow you can configure different stages, and in the approvers list you can see there is this variable reporting to. So if a requester creates a ticket and his manager field is defined in the application, and then if you set up this variable, you can see that the approval can be made to go to this particular manager for approval. So this could really help you with the workflow configuration on your service request templates. So this is where you configure that under the workflow on the service request templates. And I guess most of you know about the dynamic user addition, the LO dynamic user addition when the user is not imported into the application. Now this comes to use when you have the Active Directory enabled, authentication enabled, and you have not, say for example, a specific user who tries to log into the application and he's not already imported into the application. This feature helps to automatically import all his information from the Active Directory. So even if he is not imported from Active Directory, by enabling this feature, this user, by just typing in the username, password, will be created as a user in the application. So that's the dynamic user addition. So before we used to just bring in the login name and the name of the user, but now all the manager field, all the complete details of the users is brought from Active Directory after this feature reporting to field is brought in the application. So that's about the reporting to field and you know, the place where you could really use this feature. Now another one feature. In between, I just want to say this: there are a lot of questions posted already. So I will try to take up a few questions at the very end of this webinar. And other questions, we could send you email to specific email addresses in order to clarify on your questions. And okay, let me continue with this webinar. So let's move on to the next feature. Another feature which was recently introduced in ServiceDesk Plus under requesters, you can mark requesters as VIP users. That is, you can identify your privileged users. So, for example, your directors, CEOs, CFOs, VPs. You can identify them from the regular users who raise a ticket in the application. These identifications of such users can help the technicians to give more priority for the tickets. So let me show you where exactly this VIP users can be marked. So, for example, you could choose the users from this requesters list view and mark them as VIP users, and you can see the icon against their names if they are marked as the VIP users. So if you come back to the request list view, you can see, say here, one ticket 62889, and you can see this icon again reflected against the name of the requester, right? We have also some configurations that can be made based on the specific feature. Say, for example, if you want to set up some SLAs, service level agreements, based on VIP users, yes, we have it here now. So here it is. So if the ticket is coming out from a VIP user, if you want to set up with less resolution time or response time, or if you want to configure escalations, you can do it from here. So VIP user helps you set up SLAs, and you could also set up some criteria based on the business rules that can be set up on the business rules. So, for example, when you add business rule, again, the VIP user comes in as a criteria here as well. So, if you want to perform any one of these actions based upon this particular field, yes, you could configure that from the business rules. Now, if you want to separate a custom filter, again, that is also possible. You want to have a separate view of the tickets that is raised from VIP users. We could do that. We could create one for that as well. So VIP user is yes, and so that brings all the tickets from the VIP users there. So another feature I want to talk about today is user groups. So like you can classify your technicians into different support groups. Using user groups, the users can be classified into different groups based on certain criteria that can be defined under user group. So, for example, you can create user group based on the department, sites, email addresses, job title, or by just selecting their names. You can create user groups based on different functional groups, what you have in your environment, what you have in your company. So whoever is concerned about data security, whoever who is concerned about the data flow in your application, whoever is concerned about information being, seen across your departments, if you want to restrict the data flowing across your departments, well, this is one feature to go for. Now, let me show you how you could restrict those information. say for example, you put up some solution articles for your finance department. I'm sure you don't want other people in other department to look at those articles. So what you could do is, so let me just make sure we have a user group here. Yes. So you could go to the solution, and if I want to restrict this particular solution to be viewed only by a user group, you go here, you get this available user group, you put it to a particular department or the particular user group who belong, probably this administration team could be from a specific department, and if you want the solution to be viewed only by this team, yes, you could create such a user group and restrict the viewing of the solution by other users. So that's one of the applications of this feature. Let me take you to the other one. So we create a lot of templates based on the departments or based on the applications which is used by different departments or different issues which is raised by your end users. Let's go to one of those templates. And we can see at the very end, show the requester. You could again put these templates to a specific user group so that only these users, when they log in, they get to these see these information or see these templates, so that in your help desk, in your ServiceDesk application, if you have like hundreds of templates, and if you don't set up this restriction, when your end users use self-service portal to create tickets, they're going to see all these 100 templates, and it's hard to find or hard to search for a particular template which is relevant in order to create an issue. So if you are concerned about people raising tickets, or if you want your users to raise the tickets from self-service portal, and then I believe you should definitely go for this particular feature, user group, and then you could, you know, just have the relevant templates, the relevant solutions. And the other application of this feature is on the announcements. Even the announcements, you could create announcements for a certain user group. So I'm going to add a new announcement, and you can see here I could just show this announcements to a particular group. So that's about user groups. Now let me talk about tasks. So we have brought in a lot of changes in the way the tasks are handled in the application. So let me just show you all those features which was introduced recently. Let's take a look at the filters here. Now, if you want to see, if your technicians want to see all the tasks pending in their name, all the requests from a single place, you could make use of this specific filter. So this is one custom-made a default filter which was created for the technicians to view their pending requests and tasks at the same time. So if they could see it in the same place. Otherwise, you might have to switch to the task view by going to the Home tab and then going to your task list. So for this, they could just go to the filter and choose, and from this filter, it's easy for them to manage their task and tickets. So other feature on task, so let me take you here. So I'm just going to the one of the service templates here. Is a template for a new hire. So you see multiple tasks which is created under this specific template. So I'm going to talk about a feature, marking of technicians on these tasks. So in this scenario, what used to happen in previous version was when you create this particular ticket using this template, all these tasks are triggered simultaneously, and they get, the notifications are sent immediately when these tickets are created. Now, using this mark feature, you could set up a task in a sequential way by setting up the dependencies. I'm going to show you next how to mark dependencies. So by marking the technician and marking instead of assigning the task to a technician, you can now mark a technician to a task. Now what happens is when the task is triggered, when this template is created, only the first task is triggered, and the ticket is, the task is automatically assigned to that specific technician, and the notification only goes to the technician who gets the first task. Now, once he completes the task, and then the next task is triggered, and the task is assigned to the next technician, and then the notification sent to him. He does whatever needs to be done on the task, and then when he closes the task, and then the next task is created. So this goes in a sequential way. So like I said before, it used to trigger all these tasks together, and technician, they are confused, or like there are certain parent tasks to be completed before some child task could be closed. So those confusions can be avoided using this marking of technicians on those specific tasks. Now, the triggering of tasks we have under Service Catalog, we have like 3 options here. So you don't have to manually trigger these tasks. You could enable one of these options, automatically trigger task once service request got created. So if you have set up the dependencies, based on the dependencies, task is triggered one by one. You could also set up the next option, automatically trigger task when service request gets approved. So when the ticket is created, there is no triggering of task done. Only when the ticket goes to the approver of the service request, and then he approves it, then only the tasks are triggered. So these could be set up under the workflow on your service request templates. Well, if you say like, no, I don't want this to automate, I just, once the ticket is approved, our technicians will go manually trigger these tasks. Yes, that can also be configured. We can say manually trigger tasks using, trigger task and the task list. So let me just go to one of these tickets where you have these tasks, and I'll show you the dependencies. So you have this tab called dependencies, and you can mark the dependencies. You can mark a parent of a specific task by just so that's how it works. You could just hover on the specific task and select the parent, and it will highlight you with tasks that can be made parent to that specific task in green. So you select one of them, and that becomes the parent for the task which you have chosen. So that's how you set up the dependency. So this this is what I was talking about. So you set up these dependencies, and when you create a ticket, and then the task will be triggered sequentially. Like, so you have to put those tasks with the marking of the technicians. If you assign the technician, again, like I said, that's going to assign the technicians immediately when the ticket is triggered or the ticket is created. So you set up the dependencies, and you can configure the trigger in order for the task to be sequentially triggered. So that was the setting up the task dependencies and marking of the task. Now, we have brought in task closing rules as well. So before closing a task, you could ensure the technicians fill up all these information, like estimated effort, start time, the actual start, and the comments, work logs, descriptions, additional cost, all that. So you can make sure your technicians fill up all these information before a task is closed. And for automatic triggering of task, the technician needs to move the ticket to the close status. Now, how does the application identify a task is closed? So that's where you configure these settings here. So only close status of task will be considered as task completed status. So you have a closed status by default defined in the system. And I want to say there is no separate statuses for task. It uses the same statuses for the request in the task. So there is a default closed status for request. So if you put that status on the task, and if you enable the setting, that means the task is completed. Well, if you want to have any statuses which says completed, say for example, when you go to statuses here, so any completed statuses here can be considered as closed task, and then you can go for enabling this particular setting. Any completed status of task will be considered as task completed status. So that's about task closing rules. And on the dashboard, we have brought in the widget to track the task summary, and you will get to know the technicians against the number of tasks pending in their name. So you get the view here, all the technicians' name there with the number of tasks in their name that remains to be completed. And now you could also report on tasks. So go to new custom report. There you go. You select task, and you get all that information to make all the custom reports however you want it. So that's about task. So like I said, there was some really good features that was brought in on task so that you can manage tasks more usefully on the application. Now let me take you to the business rules where I want to show you again a few features. So, like business rules helps you, create rules in the application so that tickets are tickets can be assigned to certain technicians, groups, or can be set up with some priorities. So it's basically helps you to organize all the incoming requests, dive it into separate support groups or sites, setting up the priority, all that. You can see now, if you want to create certain notifications when a ticket comes in the non-operational hours, you could do that now in the business rules. Say, for example, you set up a rule, say execute when a ticket is created outside the operational hours, and if that, you can say the priority of the ticket, or if it is from a VIP user, say for example, this would make more sense. So a ticket comes in outside operational hours, and if it's a VIP user, so if you want to treat that with priority, you could set up a priority for that ticket. And based on that, you could set up relevant notifications as well. So that was one of the features. So you could choose the timing here in order to escalate issues or send notifications on certain criteria. So all that can be done using the timing option that is provided here within operational hours or outside operational hours. Another feature what was brought in the criteria was request templates. So using the business rules, you could use this field, request template. I'm sorry. You could perform an action here on the based on a certain criteria. Say, for example, there is a ticket that comes up with, like say, a SQL issue, something that needs to be done by your SQL administrators. You could use a specific template for that. So if you have a specific template, you could assign a specific template and choose between one of those templates here. And that template can take care of all the necessary details to put it across to a particular technician, put that under a specific category, subcategory, probably take care of the kind of prioritization of the ticket. So this option wasn't there. So based on the criteria, you could use this request template to be changed to, based on whatever ticket is raised by the end user. We also have now business rules for service catalog. We had only business rules for incidents, and we have now business rules for service catalog. So you can define, so similar to what we have for the incidents, you can define your business rules. And another feature on service level agreements, so we have on the SLA configuration, like one level of escalation for the response time violation, and 4 levels of escalation for the resolution time violation. We had this option of sending notifications to the relevant technicians or managers or the concerned users who care about the violation of the ticket. But now we have this option to move the tickets to a different group, escalate it to a different group, or escalate it to a specific technician, change the priority. So say for example, a normal ticket with normal priority, if that is violated, you could escalate that to a specific group, a technician, probably change the priority on it to high, and you could use the level field as well to escalate your issue. So this was something which was brought in recently, and I think would make really make sense while setting up the service level agreements. Now we can see a small icon which was brought in here, which says time elapsed analysis. Let's see what it is for. So you can see so this is the SLA which is reflected here. This is the resolution time which is reflected, and it says how much time is spent on the group, how much time is spent on the technician. And you could also look at the history, and you will get to know how much time the ticket remained under a specific group and how much time it remained under different technicians. So currently we do not have a report report to take this information from, but if you approach our support team, we could generate a report to do these kind of analysis on the ticket. But if you generally want to take a look at and look at the time spent analysis, you could make use of this section here. You will get to know how much time is spent under each group or each technician. So that was again a great feature to have in order to look at your violated tickets or tickets that takes a lot of time to resolve. So one other feature which was brought in was request dependencies. So if you are under a ticket, you can see the request dependencies. Like you get this option, add dependencies, and you can mark your dependent tickets. Now, why request dependencies? We do already have request linking, and then we have this task under request, and then why do you need to have a separate request dependencies? Now, again, with respect to task, it's difficult to manage based on the size, and you don't have SLA and escalations on task. So using request dependencies, you could make this possible. You could have with respect to the ownership, with respect to the site-based association, or if you want to have separate SLAs and escalations, you could make use of this particular feature dependencies, request dependencies. So dependency can be marked between any incident to incident or any incident to service request or vice versa. There you could also configure closure rules based on the dependencies so that a request can be completed. You could configure such a setting that a request could be completed only if its dependency requests are completed. So that can be done from Help Desk Customizer under Request Closing Rules, and this is the configuration for the same. So requests should be completed only if the dependency requests are completed. So that's about the request dependencies. Now coming back to the dashboards. Probably many of you know, but I'm just going to show this. You could now add widgets to your dashboard. So you can have the metric reports or custom reports with graphs, which can be added as a widget onto the dashboard. So for example, if I take this particular report, I run the report. So here is the report, and you get this option, add to dashboard. So you can add it to the dashboard. You can make it a public widget, or you could make it as a private widget. So private widget lets you to see the particular widget on the dashboard. If you make it public, and then everybody who logs in with the dashboard rights, and all of them can take a look at this particular report. So this is the report we just added onto the dashboard. So let me stress this again. So only matrix reports and custom reports with graphs can be added as a widget onto this dashboard, and only a saved report which is run can be added to the dashboard. And every technician with report permissions can configure 10 reports on the request, this help desk page, and 16 reports each on the problem or change or the assets page. So those many reports can be added onto the dashboard by each technician who have the rights to view the reports or edit the reports. So that's about adding of reports to the dashboard. And I'm going to start with showing few features which was brought in the very latest version that we released, or the very latest hotfix which was released. Good news to all of you who are waiting for additional fields, more additional fields. Now the limit is raised to 90 fields from the 48 field limitation. So whoever has maximized upon that limit can make use of this increase of number of additional fields in the application. And under requesters, now if a user has got 2 email addresses, and then it will be listed as 2 different requester accounts, and he might have to log into 2 different accounts in order to see different tickets which is raised from these 2 different email addresses. Now we are solving that problem in the latest hotfix by giving you this option to specify multiple email addresses here. So you could separate, you could put your email addresses here, and if you have multiple email addresses, you could specify that with a new line or a comma or a blank space, so that requester can have just one single login to log in to view tickets from different email addresses he has got. So I guess that is it about for today. Thank you very much for listening into this webinar. And now, if you have questions, you could post your questions onto the chat window. I'll try to answer a few of them, and then the other questions will be sent to your email addresses. The answer to your question will be sent to your email addresses offline. And thank you so much for listening in. So one of the questions was, in what release is on behalf of field available? So there was a question posted by Jeff. So this, you come to the latest build, at least to the version 9, and you have it there on behalf of field. So you just send a request to our support team. We'll send you a database query in order to enable this from the database. Another question, is it possible to remove duplicate requesters and have it resync with AD, Active Directory? So that's from David Lee. Well, yes, David, it's possible. We actually have a tool that will be incorporated into the application, probably in one of the hotfixes. But for your current situation, you could send an email to the support team. We'll provide you this tool, and probably if you want, we could assist you on a remote session to help you remove the duplicate requester, and we can help you resync the requesters with the AD information. Is this webinar available for playback? That's asked by Ms. Anna, yes, this webinar will be available. We are recording it and we'll be posting that later onto our website. So another question from Doran. Doran, if you're not seeing the VIP option, and then you must not be on your latest version of the application, you could do an upgrade to the latest and you should see it there. So I was showing the latest build on the webinar. So all those features you get when you are on the latest build.
Hi everybody, it's Prithvi again. So thanks for participating in the webinar. Goodbye and have a nice day.